Just record her.
What do you think of when I say the words escargot, Eiffel Tower, or baguette? That's right, France. These are three things that they are especially known for, but they are not the only things that make the country so great. France is such an important country because of its famous history and rich culture. While I've never been to France, I've spent the last week researching the country's culture and people, and now I want to tell you more about these things so that you can understand why France is so great. First, I want to tell you about the country in general. Then I want to move on to France's cultural aspects, and lastly I want to tell you about the people and their communication behaviors. So let me begin by giving you a better understanding of France as a whole. The most basic information of any country is important because it's what allows the country to be one in the first place. For example, France's location, languages, and demographics are not why people visit, but they are what give the people a place to visit. France is located on the southwest part of Europe next to Spain and Germany, to name a few, and it is adjacent to the Mediterranean Sea. As most of you probably know, France's capital is Paris, and it is the largest country in Western Europe behind Russia, with a population of 63 million people. Despite the large amount of people, it still feels less crowded than most European countries. French demographic groups, or their racial and ethnic groups, are much less diverse than the U.S. with the population being 85% white or European, 10% North African, 3.5 Black, and 1.5 Asian. While all these facts are important, perhaps the most crucial detail of France is the language they speak because it affects travelers as well. If you plan on traveling to France, or especially if you plan on moving there, make sure to brush up on your French because it is their official language, with 96% of the population speaking it and only 24% speaking English. Other helpful information that really caters more towards travelers includes their currency and their transportation methods. France's size to population ratio makes it one of the most beautiful places to travel along, and it has a great network of toll roads, highways, and minor roads, and is fairly traffic-free. It has a great network of toll roads, highways, and There's also a subway system in Paris, buses and trains that you can take all across the country. France uses the euro as their currency and only started to do so in 2002 when it moved from the franc. While these facts are important and helps give you a better understanding of France's general makeup, the culture is what truly defines France. According to Barry Tomlin in his book Culture Smart France, France is considered to be one of the foremost contributors to civilized life. This is due to its food, art, monuments, traditions, and religions. France is very well known for its culinary traditions, famous art and architecture, and their famous cities. France regards itself as the world's center of fine cuisine, and it takes the enjoyment of food very seriously. So while visiting France, make sure to really show your appreciation for your food and the service, and take your time eating and drinking your wine. Another important cultural aspect of France is its architecture. In his book France, written in 1914, Gordon Holmes says that France's Romanesque, and Gothic structures rival that of even Italy's. Structures like this include the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Palace of Versailles, and the many Catholic churches spread all across the country. Most of these famous landmarks can be found in the famous cities of France, which include Paris, Nice, Normandy, Lourdes, and Lyon. These are the most famous cities because of their rich history and beautiful scenery. Another main part of France is its religion. France has no official religion, but over 90% of the country is Catholic, and it observes all religious and secular holidays. Over 5% of the country is Protestant, but they also have a very high Jewish population and over 1 million Muslims. France's culture is important to understand if you plan on visiting, but knowing how the people communicate and being able to do so with them is perhaps the most important part if you plan on going. The communication behaviors of the French people is very important to understand. Their nonverbal communication, family structure, and their communication preferences and identities are what make them a unique people. Nonverbal communication in France can be understood by looking at their body language, and there are also very specific norms for face-to-face communication. The French are known for talking with their hands and are different from other countries because they are comfortable standing really close to people when they talk to them. This can be somewhat of a culture shock for Americans because we tend to stand further away when we talk to strangers and even people we know. Unlike Americans, the French do not smile at strangers, but only smile when they genuinely are happy about something, because otherwise they feel like they're being fake. These are things to remember when talking to people there. When talking to the French face-to-face, remember to maintain eye contact, make a good first impression, and pick your conversation topic carefully. Anything entertainment or food related is okay, but French prefer to keep families, age, salary, politics and religion, and wars more private, so steer clear of those conversations. Family structure and the communication, preferences, and identities of the French are also very important to know. Family structures differ in France in that children tend to live with their parents until they marry, and there can be 3 to 4 generations under one roof. And if they aren't all living together, then family members are tending to live in the same vicinity as their other family members. The French prefer a more direct communication style and aren't afraid to share their opinions, and are also considered to be a polychromic society, which means they like to do multiple things at once. They are also very individualistic, which means that members of certain social groups are also still independent from the social groups that they're a part of. All of these communication factors influence our culture in some way. These 3 points are all influential and are what make it a fully functioning society. First, I told you about the geographic and demographic makeup of France. Then I dove into the cultural aspects. And last, I told you about the people and their communication behaviors. All of these points are important to know about if you want to have a full understanding of France, and are especially important if you plan on visiting. Knowing about the culture of a country, it helps you know what it's like to be immersed in it. And knowing about France also helps you see why it is such a great country with an amazing culture and people.